It was supposed to be just another ordinary week in my quiet suburban neighborhood. But the truth is, nothing about living under the HOA ever stays ordinary for long. You'd think a homeowners association would be focused on keeping the lawns tidy, making sure the mailbox is matched, or reminding people to put away their trash cans on time. But my HOA, they decided they were above the law. They decided my private road, the very one I'd paid to pave, maintain, and plow every winter for over a decade, somehow belonged to them. It all started on a Monday morning. I walked out of my driveway with a cup of coffee in hand, planning to take my truck into town. That's when I noticed 3 orange cones set up right at the edge of the cul-de-sac. Standing next to them were 2 guys in reflective vests, clipboards in hand, waving down cars like they were directing traffic. At first, I thought maybe the county had sent workers out for repairs. But when I got closer, I realized both men were wearing HOA badges clipped to their belts. Not official county workers, not law enforcement, just self-appointed rule enforcers who looked like they'd never worked a day on this road in their lives. "Morning, sir," one of them called out like he was in charge. "Road maintenance is now under HOA jurisdiction. We're inspecting all vehicles entering and leaving." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Excuse me? This road isn't HOA property. It's mine. I maintain it. I've got the receipts from the county to prove it." He smirked like he'd been waiting for me to say that. "Not anymore. As of last week's board meeting, this road is considered common area. The HOA voted. It belongs to us now." I stared at him in disbelief. The arrogance in his voice, the way he said we voted like it was some magic spell that rewrote property deeds, it made my blood boil. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You held a meeting. You took a vote. And now you think you could just take land I legally own? That's not how property law works." The other guy, younger and twitchy, stepped forward. "Sir, with all due respect, you're outnumbered. The community decided. If you don't comply, there will be fines, citations, and consequences." I could feel my hands tightening around my coffee cup. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a hostile takeover, HOA style. I decided not to argue right then. Instead, I drove around their little cones and went to work. But all day long, it gnawed at me. By the time I got home, the cones were gone, replaced by a brand new metal sign planted directly in the middle of the cul-de-sac. In bold black letters it read, "HOA property, no trespassing without approval." My jaw dropped. They had actually gone and stolen my road in broad daylight. For the next week, it only got worse. They started setting up checkpoints in the mornings, demanding that guests check in before driving down my road. They sent letters to neighbors claiming they now had the legal right to ticket anyone who didn't comply with HOA parking rules, even though every single driveway was privately owned. And then came the final straw. On Friday evening, I came home to find a flyer taped to my door. It read, "Notice of HOA action. Roadway improvement fees are due. Each homeowner will be billed $4,000 for repaving and maintenance costs. Non-payment will result in suspension of privileges and legal action." That was it. That was the moment I knew I wasn't just going to fight them. I was going to destroy their little scheme so thoroughly they'd never try it again. You see, what the HOA didn't realize was that I had something they didn't. Patience, resources, and cameras. That weekend, I pulled out my security system. Every inch of my property, including the entire stretch of the private road leading to my gate, was covered by motion-detecting cameras. I downloaded weeks of footage, and what I found was gold. There they were, HOA board members trespassing on my land, HOA enforcers setting up fake checkpoints, blocking cars, and even trying to intimidate delivery drivers. And best of all, multiple cars belonging to board members parked right in the middle of my road during their so-called inspections. All without permission. All recorded in crystal clear HD. I knew exactly what to do. The following Monday, I went to the county recorder's office. I pulled out the original deed for my land, complete with a section that explicitly stated the road was privately owned by me, not the HOA. I made certified copies. Then I filed an official trespassing complaint with the sheriff's department. But I wasn't done. Oh no, if the HOA wanted to play dirty, I was about to play dirtier. See, my property had one little secret. Because I owned the road, I also owned the easement rights, which meant, legally, I had the power to control access. So I called a contractor friend of mine and ordered a little surprise, a retractable steel security gate. Within days, it was installed. The next time the HOA clowns tried to set up their checkpoint, they were greeted with a massive gate blocking the entire road. And who controlled the gate? Me, with a little remote in my truck. I'll never forget the look on their faces. They rolled up in their little golf cart, tried to wave their clipboards like badges of authority, and slammed right into the undeniable truth of property law. The road wasn't theirs. It was mine. The leader shouted at me from the other side. "You can't do this. You're blocking community access." I leaned out my window, holding up the deed I'd laminated just for the occasion. "Correction, I'm blocking trespasses. Community access is granted only by me, the legal owner. And right now, you're not invited." They raged. They threatened. They even called the sheriff themselves. But when deputies arrived, I handed them my deed and the video footage. The deputies looked over at the HOA guys and said, "You step foot past this gate again, you're the ones getting arrested." And that's when I hatched the final part of my plan. See, the HOA members loved parking their cars on the road while they did their little power trips. But now, every single one of those cars was sitting on land I owned. And with my easement rights, I had the power to declare them abandoned vehicles. So I made the call. Tow trucks rolled in that afternoon. One by one, every car the HOA had left on my property was hooked up and hauled away to the impound lot. The sight was glorious. Neighbors stood outside filming, cheering, some even clapping as the so-called enforcers begged the tow drivers not to take their cars. But it was too late. They had trespassed. They had parked illegally, and the law was on my side. Within a week, the HOA board was in chaos. Members demanded answers. Lawsuits started flying, not against me, but against the president who had greenlit the land grab. The county got involved, issuing fines for unauthorized signage and illegal claims of jurisdiction. And as for me, not a scratch. I had played every move by the book. The road remained mine. The HOA's reputation was in shambles. And their board? Dissolved within 3 months after state investigators uncovered years of shady practices, from misuse of funds to intimidation tactics. Today, I still sip coffee on my porch, watching cars drive peacefully down the road that I rightfully own. No cones, no fake chickens, no trespassers pretending they have power. Just quiet, just calm, just the way it should be. And every now and then, I see one of those former HOA board members walking sheepishly by. They don't make eye contact. They don't wave. They just keep their heads down, probably still embarrassed that they thought they could steal from me, and ended up losing everything instead. Here's the lesson I learned. HOAs thrive on intimidation, on the belief that you won't push back. But the moment you stand firm, the moment you know your rights and use the law to your advantage, their entire illusion of power crumbles. So if you ever find yourself dealing with an HOA that thinks they can take what's yours, don't yell, don't panic. Just document, prepare, and strike when the time is right. Because nothing feels better than watching bullies bury themselves in the mess they created. And that's exactly what happened here. This was my story. And trust me, the next one, it's even crazier. Subscribe, because you won't want to miss it.